All right, it is 1 o'clock. We will call the meeting of the Klickitat County Board of Commissioners to order. With record show all 3 commissioners present. We will start with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve the business agenda.
And I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the business agenda. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the business agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve the commissioner meeting minutes for May 16th, 2023 as presented.
And I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the commissioner meeting minutes for May 16th, 2023. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the May 16th, 2023 meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Brings us time to citizen comment. Citizen comment will be limited to 3 minutes. Each individual will get 1 time to speak, so you don't get to break it up in 1.5 minutes now and 1.5 minutes in 20 minutes. At the start of your comment, please state your name and general location in the county for the record. The commissioners may choose to respond to your comment at the end. So if you're looking for a response, you might want to hang in there and we'll reserve that last 5 minutes of the 30 minutes for that. With that, we always start in the room, so we will continue with that. Anybody in the room have a citizen comment for us today? Okay, come forward to the mic, sir. And then name and general location.
General location would be within Klickitat County. Lyle area.
Okay.
My name is Paul Lederer, and my concern is subdivisions and water consumption. I live up on Fisher Hill Road, which is an area off the Klickitat, as you may know. And I live between the Klickitat River and Silva Canyon. So it's a long, thin peninsula there, which is roughly a mile, 1.5 miles wide and about 15 miles long. And the water that comes in to that little peninsula, if you will, only comes in from one direction. And the county has it zoned as 5-acre lots. And I would like to see it rezoned to at least 20-acre parcels based on water. I have 2 wells in my place. We have to alternate back and forth between the wells so that we have sufficient water. I can show you 5 dry holes, cased wells that have been put in over the years. There's no water in those at all. The Shippey Ranch to the north of me, best water that they get is 5 gallons a minute. And we've got several people trying to subdivide property up there into these little 5-acre lots. We've got a couple wells that have been drilled, some legally, some illegally. And I'd like the county to look at that area. I know there's an area in High Prairie that you guys visited a number of years ago and just redesignated it. And I'd like you to consider this section of Fisher Hill Road for that same type of increased zoning.
Do you know if our natural resources department is doing any well monitoring or anything out in that area?
I have tried to contact them, and with the issues that they have going on in Trout Lake, that's been postponed for another year.
Issues.
You know, 5 gallons a minute is enough to sustain a house and within Washington's water consumption laws. But if we suddenly have 300 people trying to draw 5 gallons a minute out of the ground, it's going to go away. Come October or September, October, I have one well that goes completely dry. It's just mud that'll pump. I have two neighbors contiguous to me that had, quote, good wells, and they are down to 1 to 5 gallons a minute in theirs. One of the wells that one neighbor has is unusable. Too much iron in it, too much muck, what have you. So anyway, that's the extent of I'd just like you guys to look at that area and see what you can do.
All right, thank you, sir. I know we are in the midst of starting a comprehensive plan update. With that, there will probably be zoning changes. And part of that will be because of water issues. So we'll make a note of it and we'll see if they have any kind of well monitoring or anything going on.
I'm
or
looking,
can
I
have
think
to.
I found your property.
What was that?
I think I found your property. You just have one parcel?
Two.
So we haven't had any well monitoring off of Fisher Hill Road. It's always been over on just to the northwest of you up by the Canyon Road. And
Correct.
then-
That's on the other side of Silva Canyon.
Yep, and then Johnson Road, which is kind of closed that direction. But we don't have any wells that I've monitored up there over the years that we've ever had. Because
So he used to be the well monitoring person before he got this job. So
Ah,
hence the knowledge there.
yeah, but there's just not a lot of houses.
There's
up
not a lot of
Silver Canyon.
wells in there to be testing on to get a good, how deep are your wells, by the way?
roughly 400 feet.
I know somebody else up there that had a terrible home and they just kept drilling and drilling and spending.
I would say that's an awful lot of money to be wasting if you're not getting anywhere.
They were already living there in their well. They
Okay.
lost their well. I knew somebody else in your area that had problems too.
And you know, we live with these problems. I've two neighbors who've put in reservoir tanks to
Right.
maintain water throughout the summer. I know on the Appleton Klickitat Highway, about halfway down the hill, they put in a new subdivision on the north side, right there at that bluff. And they want to put a little communal well in up there. They went down 1,000 feet and are still only at 5 gallons a minute.
Wow.
So it's just, you know, we shed off into the Klickitat on one side and shed off into the Silva Canyon on the other side. And so it's just this long, narrow strip that the water has to come down to get to us. And if we start developing all these parcels,
Okay, not to cut you off, but we didn't set our 3-minute timer, so we went way long.
I made my point.
You did it. You had extra time to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Paul.
sir. All right, anybody else in the room have a citizen comment for us? Not yet. Let's go online. Anybody online have a citizen comment for us today? Raise your hand, unmute yourself. Sherry, go ahead.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to talk about the planning commission meeting tonight regarding large scale solar ordinances and the moratorium. And I'm starting to get really concerned with the inaction of Klickitat County and the appearance of our 3 commissioners who are to be our overseers. I don't have the RCW, but you know, you're to see taxes, all this other stuff. So you should be our protectors of land zoning. And I just hear crickets. I hear crickets. I don't see action. And I'm really concerned. I hear that you want to do action, but I don't see action. So tonight we have 9 people, hopefully, that will show up to their volunteer position for our county. And hopefully tonight they will listen to the people. The people have spoken to you regarding large scale solar. We're not talking rooftop solar. We're not talking community projects that benefit us. We are talking, as you know, as we've been trying to be, as we've been downplayed. And at first we thought Carriger was 1,125. Now it's over 2,000 acres and 2 acres of lithium batteries. It gets worse and worse every day. What are they going to come up with next? And so I am really getting concerned. This is 2.5 years of us asking our county for protection. This is the seat of our county. This is a beautiful county. This farmland is high quality farmland. There's RCWs to say preserve the farmland. We've provided that to you. Our PA, our county hired or voted in public servant has gone mute on our county. He will not help you as commissioners. And during the FSEC meeting, when it was his time to speak for our county, he was missing in action to support our county. And this is becoming very serious. So tonight, my hope is that maybe 9 people who live here and enjoy this county will realize what the scam is happening. And I believe that we need to ban large scale solar. That could be our ticket. It could be anything larger than a megawatt, 1 megawatt. And then hopefully we can stop this invasion. This is not ever going to help our county. You think the taxes we're going to get is going to help. It's not. It hurts us. It hurts us. So I'd like to know if any of you commissioners plan on attending this planning commission tonight. This is one of the largest things that will ever affect this county. And we could be left with a super fun cleanup. This is not a joke anymore. Who is going to be there? Who will participate amongst you 3? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Busquet, and I would highly encourage you to stick around and wait for commissioner responses to your questions. I can't wait to answer them. Anybody in the room, citizen comment? Okay, we got one.
Kathy Moko, Goldendale. Just wanted to let everybody know what a super Memorial Day we had yesterday, at least in this part of the county. Centerville Cemetery, the American Legion, they go there and do a ceremony. Then they go down to Stonehenge to the War Memorial. That's very pretty. That was very well attended. And then they go to the cemetery in Goldendale and do a big ceremony there, and they have all the flags and everything. It was very cool, very neat. And I'm sure that the West End does something too, but I wasn't down there. So this has been happening here for a long time. The American Legion does a good job. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Go back online. Anybody else online have citizen comment for the Board of Commissioners today? Unmute yourself or raise your hand. Seeing none, anybody online have citizen comment for the Board of Commissioners today? Or in the room? Okay, I'm still seeing none. With that, I will start signing paperwork. If you're online and you have comment, please unmute yourself, raise your hand, get our attention somehow. Same thing in the room. Feel free to wave. And we will go about our business and keep watching back for you. Santa Ana, California. The lapel pin, that's just still weird. Still in citizen comment for anybody online that has citizen comment, please raise your hand or unmute yourself. Oh, I see Richard Foster. Go ahead, sir. Richard, did you mean to unmute yourself? I don't hear you talking. That's not. We don't hear you if you're trying to talk, Richard. You want to see travel and time cards? Fill in citizen comment if anybody has citizen comment for us.
You guys know what they're doing downstairs in the meeting room?
No, but the big TV that's down there lists.
It didn't say.
It didn't say anything on it. This one's done. She should be able to check signatures on that one.
Jeff was raising his hand.
And that one's done, so she can check signatures on that one. What is it, Jeff? Oh, got it. Still in citizen comment. If anybody online has citizen comment, please raise your hand or unmute yourself. We're losing our attendance. We started with only 19. It did pop up to 34, but
Kind of saying everybody came back from lunch.
I can say, yeah, it's 2/3 of them anyway are our employees, so. We even see our new one on there who will be sitting in the room here starting next week.
Since nobody's, Paul, what's your elevation at your place? What's your elevation at your house?
1,500. The property varies from 15 to 14. we found, if there's water, it's a shallow, most of the water is shallow, 50 to 100 feet. And it just flows along on top of the salt. And so there's, no matter how deep you go, it doesn't help.
Bill and citizen comment. If anybody online has citizen comments, raise your hand or unmute yourself. You guys came in for citizen comment, right? We got a few minutes if anybody has citizen comment out there.
How can you tell if somebody has joined your meeting?
I'm looking, you have to look behind you.
Yeah, so the list of who's in attendance is on the right. If somebody comes in and wants to join, they show up at the top until we've admitted them. Then once we admit them, then they go into the regular list. And if they unmute themselves or raise their hand, they go to the top of the list. You want to go with responses?
You want,
You want to start early? We can.
up to you, you said you had a lot to say.
No, I didn't have a lot to say, but I was going to say it. We'll go last call for citizen comment. Anybody in the room or online have citizen comment before the commissioners answer questions? Which there ain't a whole lot of questions, so we might be whipping through it real quick. Last call. All right, don't see it. So with that, Paul, yes, thank you for bringing this to our, in front of us. I have not heard anything about that area being potentially delinquent on water. Our national resource person is now in the room, even though she's leaving us here very shortly, and we'll be having to replace her, unfortunately. And then again, like I said, as we go through the planning stages, we're gonna have to look, because there's areas that are 20 now that want to downsize to 5s. And I'm sure there's plenty of 5s that want to upsize to 20. And one of the things that we're gonna need to get in either direction is to make sure that roads are adequate, water is adequate, and then adjust accordingly. And I don't know how we can shut down development or 5-acre parcels in your area if we have not been monitoring the wells. Because we're gonna to have actual evidence of why we made the decision. So it's gonna take some time to get some well monitoring done, and that's through the comprehensive plan. So anyway, Sherry, in your planning commission comments, that she is hearing nothing but crickets from us. I am curious if you were online this morning when we were having a public works update that we talked about FSEC. And we talked about it pretty in detail about Road Hall and what FSEC is allowing from us and whatnot. So that was a good discussion. We talk about it a lot. It's just usually not between 1 and 1:30. So if you're interested in what that discussion was, I would turn your back to watching the video when it gets posted. And as far as attending the planning commission meeting, odds are you'll probably find 0 commissioners attend the planning commission meeting because these commissioners have put it to the planning commission to make a recommendation to us. And I think it is wise that we're not trying to influence that decision or meddle in the affairs of a planning commission. So as they work through the process, they will come back and bring forth a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. This board will then either accept that recommendation or choose to change it in any way, shape, or form it sees fit. And if it does, it will go back out to public hearing. But that's when we will see it again, is when it gets out of the planning commission. So I don't know, what do you want us to do? Bypass the planning commission and do whatever we want here and just tell the planning commission it doesn't matter what you're doing because we're not listening to you? That's not how government works. So I would, that's about as nice as I can say that. There is a process. Government works in a specific way. And it is currently working in that way, ma'am. Kathy, I agree. Memorial Day ceremonies and stuff the Legion does is, it's quite powerful. I did not go this year. I had too much gardening I had to do yesterday. Most of the time I do. I've even been fortunate enough to speak. And it's a very powerful day. So I applaud all those volunteers in our community that are out putting up those flags, and it makes a difference. That's all I have. Either one of you have comments?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you for taking the time to come all the way and you put it on our notice, and we'll follow through and check into what we can do and where we can go with it.
Currently, there's really, I've got 4 neighbors, you know, in a 10-mile stretch, basically. And so there's not a lot of people putting input into it until they go out and try to drill a well and find out.
If there's nothing there.
But I
yeah.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate you. And Kathy, thank you. As always glad to see your smiling face here with us. We appreciate you. And Lyle and Klickitat were very festive. I didn't get to go into town for things, but I passed through and they did have flags everywhere, especially Lyle. It was really decorated up. I'm sure they had a couple events going on. And Sherry, I hope you know me well enough by now that I don't quit, I don't give up, and I'm working every day. There's some portion of my day that I dedicate towards what's going on with solar. Where can I go? What can I impact? How can I help move things forward? And yes, we do work here on the board. The road department's been diligent. They've tried to work with FSEC, and we're not happy with the answer they got back. So we have to help craft a way for them to move through this now. It is very, very frustrating, and probably on your end, being out in the public, not seeing what goes on day to day, it is disheartening to think you're left alone and people aren't moving, but the county is working on it. It's a long process, and linking arms with other counties such as Yakima and Benton is important because they're in the same situation we are. We all have the same burden to bear now to figure out how to get through the new industrial solar idea. So I appreciate you staying in it for the long haul, but don't feel like you're being cast out to nowhere. As far as planning commission, we do have to be careful. We don't want to have to recuse ourselves if that comes to our board for a vote. So these are people that are dedicated. They're willing to spend their evening time and come in, and I appreciate them doing that and sit on a board and tackle hard subjects. And we trust them to do their due diligence and hand something to us that helps us get more education about the things that we have to vote on. So I appreciate planning commission, and I'm sure they're going to do a great job on putting things forward to what we need to look at.
Okay. I got one more, Mr. Christopher again, for Sherry, and that is the word trust. I fully understand if citizens have zero faith or zero trust in their government. I hear you. I understand why you say that. I have the same concerns of my government. But I guess all I can say is that you trust me. You should know by now, I'm a man of my word. I will always stand behind it. And I do not waver. I have not wavered on the solar issue since day one. So also know that I can give you my word that I am not going to waver on the solar issue, and eventually it will be back before us again. I would just say have patience and try to find a little bit of trust. And we'll get through it together. And then I'm done.
Paul, thank you so much for coming up. You know, that area, you said you have 4 neighbors in that 15-mile stretch, and I keep sitting here looking at it and, you know, with those large landowners that own most of that property, if they wanted to start subdividing and doing something else with their property, I can absolutely see how that could strain the water table and the water system. It hasn't been on our list because there's so few people up there. When you go across the canyon, anything odd that borders the Klickitat kind of has those same issues because there's just no aquifer recharge area. And there's a lot of people who are living on 2 gallons or less per minute, you know, just across the canyon from you. And you guys get a little bit more rain up there. But we don't know what those fractured basalts look like. We don't, you know, we haven't done a big aspect report on that area. But definitely, you mean, you touch the open space, you know, it's just to the other side of the road. And when I will remember this when we go through comprehensive planning about this area, and you'll definitely want to keep appraised of it and bring it up when we do mention this moving forward through the planning process for the comprehensive plan update. It's a really neat area up there you live. Sherry, you could say that you don't see action. But that might be because you have a hard time grasping the process. And we are currently going through the proper process in order to draft these ordinances. We have been very clear about the direction that is going, and putting it to the Planning Commission. These are people who volunteer their time, and they are working on multiple projects this year, and they are meeting bi-weekly usually to try to work through these. We gave very little direction to them with regards to this. Industrial solar within the areas that the moratorium covers, so that they could work through those processes themselves, rather than us directing them the direction we want to see it go and asking for them to be a rubber stamp. We always have to also be cognizant that it's very easy for you to talk about industrial solar and then intermix in there the application that's in front of FSEC right now. We can't do that. We don't have that ability. They're 2 very different projects. One is creating standards for, you know, projects. Another is an individual project, which is going through a statewide process. And if the PA has gone mute with regards to what you're saying, there's likely a reason for that. And that's that because no matter what, he has to protect the interests of the county, and he's not going to say something that would hinder the interest of the county. And in regards to whether or not any of us will be attending tonight, I will not be attending the meeting tonight. I have full faith and credit in the Planning Commission and the direction that they're going. And that what they present to us will be fully fleshed out plan for how to industrial scale solar over the areas that have been included in the moratorium. And, you know, it's easy to say a lot of things, but to say that, you know, a solar project is going to turn into a Superfund site. I don't usually use, fear tactics and words like that when describing situations, but this isn't the 1970s. We're not really creating new Superfund sites anymore. If anything, we're cleaning up our areas in this county, and our ecology and our environment are far better off today than they were 40 years ago. And Kathy, thank you always for bringing a ray of sunshine and saying something positive. I didn't get to attend any of the Memorial Day celebrations over here, so thank you for sharing how well it was.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Anderson. It is 1:36. Public comment is officially over, but I will use chairman prerogative to allow Lisa Evans, who has her hand raised for the last 5 minutes, to speak. Go ahead, Ms. Evans.
Okay, well, thank you, County Commissioners, for this few minutes. I'm sorry I had a little bit of tech issues, and so I wasn't able to get on earlier. I just wanted to say that I think filing week for our county went really well. We had a lot of people that have filed to run for office, and I think that's a positive thing for our county to see that we have so many people that are active and want to have a say in their county. So I just want to bring that up because I think that's a great thing for our county and all the voters in it. And then also, I just wanted to put out there, we have 3 governor candidates that will be in Klickitat County this Saturday. Semi Bird, Laurel Wheat Kahn, and Dr. Raul Garcia. All of them are very good speakers. Of course, the governor's race is next year, but what an honor and a privilege to have these strong candidates coming into our county. So they'll be here Saturday afternoon at the Society Hotel. We are selling out quickly on tickets. So if you were planning on attending, I just wanted to give you a heads up to RSVP sooner rather than later. And of course, you can go to KlickitatCountyRepublicans.org to get tickets. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Yeah, we discussed that earlier, and I told Ms. Mocha and Mr. West in the room that I probably will not be there because I have the Golden Ale cleanup that day. But I hope your event turns out wonderful and is packed and you raise lots of money. Moving on, no public hearings, public meetings, and bid openings, so we can move on to consent agenda if my seatmates are ready.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda with 4 items.
Okay,
I will second the motion.
we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda and all 4 items in it. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the consent agenda say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
And
Uh,
Mr. Are you done?
Go ahead.
Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the accounts payable warrants in the amount of $217,426 or $826.32, and the payroll benefit warrants in the amount of $1,132,031.88 for the date ending May 30th, 2023.
I will second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to pay the bills. Any discussion on that? I will actually have a smidge of discussion on that. One of the bills in there was the coroner for January. $1,000 a month. There were 4 calls for service is the way I would determine, of which one of them had an autopsy, the other 3 didn't. So that's by 2025, we have to decide whether we're going to have an elected coroner or an appointed coroner, and how we're going to fund that and how we're going to do that. Right now, we sublease with a funeral home in Vancouver. So one of the bills came in, so I was just for future knowledge that's where that went. Anyway,
Is
enough.
Is that charged out per event each time they have to go out?
It's a monthly bill
Just a month?
that, yep,
Okay.
it comes in I think it's Gardner's Funeral Home in
White Sands.
Vancouver, if I'm thinking off the top of my head.
White Salmon.
Mhm.
Is it?
Or horses and white.
Yes.
Okay. I thought it was in Clark County though. Interesting, okay. So anyway, yeah, we've got to figure out expenses. All right, so we have discussion on the payment of the bills. All those in favor of approval of the bills, paying the bills, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Next up, department update, Natural Resource Economic Development Director Dave McClure for department update.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
If it's okay, we'll start out with an update on the SBDC from Marina Lowell. She needs to get to an appointment here in a little bit.
May I just pass these documents to you guys?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Dave. Thank you. Yes, so just a quick update of this. I was with you guys last month. So this report is, I'm concentrating it in Goldendale. Because I know you guys had wanted to know what's happening in Goldendale. And so these numbers are specific to Klickitat County, and I really work in focusing on Goldendale. So these last 5 months have been really, really busy. I probably put over 250 hours just on this county. There was if you guys remember, the Department of Commerce granted a pretty significant grant to the city and to the Chamber of Commerce to do some workshops and some outreach. And then Maquette had another funds for pop talks. So there were 4 workshops. There was the small business and community, branding and marketing, profit mastery, which is a very high level financial training, restaurant and hotel management, which actually the presenter was from Washington Small Business Development Center. So with the business community, we reached 35, there were 35 businesses attended and 39 attendees. 22 businesses for branding with 26 attendees, 14 for profit mastery, and 12 for the restaurant. So it was a significant number. All of those are local businesses. I'm not including Lyle or Bingen or White Salmon. These are just Goldendale businesses. So there was a significant outreach with that money and this significant amount of time. As a result of that, our numbers really jumped. So for Klickitat County, I have 45 active clients right now. And from those 45 active clients in the county, 20 are just from Goldendale. From those 20, there are 5 in the medical field, 4 in restaurants, 1 hotel, 1 bookstore / coffee shop, manufacturing, education, and retail.
Medical, is there a way to give me more information on medical without labeling the people? I mean, is it medical supplies? Is it medical
No,
services? Is
They're
it
practices?
home
So-
care? Is it?
No, they're medical practices.
Okay.
So there's one that is trying to expand and relocate. So we're looking at purchasing property and
Okay,
remodeling.
okay.
So no, they're medical services. It's not retail. So I have one business that I put in retail that is actually providing medical supplies potentially, but is in retail.
Okay.
So when I said medical, means chiropractors, eye docs, something like that.
Dentist, something, yeah. Okay.
Exactly. Thank you for asking for
Yep, thank you.
clarification. So those are the areas of the categories in our, and then the work that we're doing includes startups, expansions, relocation, importing and exporting, and acquisition. I do want to highlight that even though this is Goldendale, I have a very significant client with very serious importing and exporting that is located in Bingen. We've been working really, really hard with this person, with these companies, and extremely exciting company. And so they are already exporting direct. They're manufacturing in China, and they're exporting to Germany and to Australia and Canada. And everything has been organic and bought by their website. So we actually, the last month, I've been extremely busy with them because the entire trade team from US, from SVA and us, we jump in to kind of help this company because it can be significant for the area and it's not drones or anything like that. It's totally different. Very exciting project. So I just want to mention that, but I have another company in Goldendale that is actually producing in Mexico and it already has 3 potential clients in overseas. Very interesting company as well. So that is a quick summary of what's happening. So and I just want to take a couple of minutes to let you know how this is, how my schedule is working around this. So as you can see the difference of industry. So we know that on Mondays, all the restaurants are closed. So on Mondays, I basically work with restaurants either here or, whenever we work. And then a couple of the medical practices, the doctor did not work on Tuesday. So my schedule is kind of like nightmare right now, because sometimes I just come from a meeting to meet early with the restaurants on Mondays, and then I rush back to meet with another client. So it has been quite a difficult between some of the distances. So that's basically how I'm working, trying to serve everybody. We're switching more to in person at their businesses versus online. So my workload changed a lot. I was doing a lot of online. Now I'm doing more in person. We have 5 loan packages, active loan packages that we're working with. So that means that I have to sit with them for hours, just kind of going through their numbers. So that's basically how we're working now.
Okay.
Any questions?
What is in the education side? Is that hopefully childcare?
Yeah, so we are back to childcare. And I'm sure you guys heard about it. So we are back to childcare. Now there are other parties involved. The school district, so there have been a lot of different meetings. The school district is participating. Some other businesses have been participating. Because of the way that we work, I've been trying to stick to the client that is actually working with me. But now seems like each party is kind of asking me to be my client, so I can work with each part of them, because so we're back, same scenario, but now the school district's involved, the Chamber of Commerce involved, and seems like other businesses are involved. So that's one. And then we have a separate after-school person that is looking to something else, and a separate person that is browsing into just infant care. So, but everything is coming from the same conversations we had the last year. We're just kind of popping in, trying to pencil numbers out.
Right.
But has been very, very active.
Good. Maybe something good will come of it.
Yeah, I think it will. There's a lot of brains. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of brains. There's a lot trying to make something happen. And also there's some urgency because of the appropriation money that is still hanging in there. Then we don't know what's going to happen if it's not used. So that's actually pushing a lot of people to decide something sooner rather than later. Is that going to be the solution? No. Is that going to serve the population that we need? Probably not, but I think something is going to come out of it.
Good.
Anything else? I'll see you tomorrow.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I'll see you guys soon. Thank you.
We need 2 copies for some reason. You gave me 3 or something. I'm the chairman, but you like me that much, huh? Give me all the copies. I didn't get a map, but that's okay. I didn't need a map.
If you would like a map, it has to do with Klickitat. Also, I'm not sure if you wanted to.
Oh, is that the stream flowy? Is that the same one I have in an email?
Potentially.
Potentially.
So to begin with, we'll start off with infrastructure, the Columbia Gorge Regional Airport with the USEDA grant that we have. I'm currently exploring $1 million ask. It would be a loan from the Community Aviation Revitalization Board. It would be an annual serviceable loan of $61,156.72 over a 20-year period. We are currently working closely with the airport manager and the public works director on how this loan will fit into the overall project. And we will likely need to arrange an executive KCPTA meeting for recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners to apply for the funding. Currently, we're trying to arrange it so that from a timing perspective, that there is no need for any sort of backstop from using our $0.09 or anything else like that. So the idea is to have the hangar itself service the entire loan over the over that 20-year time period. Moving forward, we have MCED. MCED is still pursuing the region-wide brownfield program. We're still in a holding pattern with that. They did get awarded the Regional Innovation Hub grant. It's a Washington Department of Commerce grant. ICAP, it's an acronym for Innovative Cluster Accelerator Program. This was awarded to the GTA program within MCED, Orange Technology Alliance. We're involved with this. We help them apply for it. And basically, as they're finishing up their contracts with Commerce, we're going to be engaged with that. The program itself is to help our aerospace industries, aerospace companies, to basically accelerate innovation, best practices, stuff like that. And it's going to be a sustainable, ongoing program that MCED is going to be used, that MCED is going to be involved with, in charge of, and we're going to be involved with that. Moving forward with Goldendale, they're just about done with the building. I believe they might have requested for an extension, but as far as the business accelerator program for that grant, that's all finished. And so I'm not sure exactly what else they might have left with that building. It seems to be fully done to me, but the deadline for that can be tomorrow. But that was a $1.1 million grant that the city had pursued back in, I want to say October, but they were awarded in October, November timeframe. So we're just wrapping that up. For business retention and expansion, workforce development, we're still pursuing that SRF funds through the governor's office for our aerospace industries on the west side. We should know about this funding this afternoon. We were supposed to have known back on May 9th. They did meet on May 9th, and they still have not given us word on who got funding, who did not, but we should know this afternoon. That training specifically is 2 workforce trainings. One is Dale Carnegie. It's a leadership course, and the other is a geometric dimensioning and tolerancing course. It's going to be benefiting 39 employees. The grant dollars for that's $41,555 with a company match of the same amount. Our portion of this as we move forward is we applied for it. And then as we move forward, we will be drafting up the contracts between the companies and the Mount Adams Chamber of Commerce, as well as the contract between the Mount Adams Chamber of Commerce through the Department of Commerce. So we're trying to make it so it's as hands-off for Mount Adams Chamber as we can. And they've always been a willing partner and easy to work with, both them and the Goldendale Chamber. So we've done these projects in the past. So that's our kind of piece of the pie with that. Community activities. We're still attending the Klickitat County Child Care Committee meetings, as was discussed just now. And then on May 10th, we had a job fair. We had 10 Klickitat County businesses participate and approximately 25 students that came out. And so this is considered a local success for us. And it's a good way to kind of test the waters, so to speak. I suspect next year we're going to probably expand it, make it more of a career day. So we're going to be expanding it from grades 9 to 12. And it'll be more of a mandatory type of attendance is what we're going to be floating around to the school district. So I know the career days go really, really well over on the White Salmon Valley School District. So we're going to try and replicate some of that here locally in Goldendale. Broadband. So very promising news. If you look at that sheet that I gave you, the Excel sheet, unfortunately, I did not do one for myself. Maybe we got one right.
No, I didn't bring one.
Okay. Thanks. So the rapid design study. Oh, thank you. Basically, it says it came out and said that we had a very high chance of obtaining grant dollars from BEAD. BEAD is a federal program in likely years 1 and 2, and that's going to be over the next 5-year time period for that federal funding. They submitted a working spreadsheet with different options, which is what I just gave you guys. What they're suggesting for the cost structure of it would be to, in order to provide reliable broadband at 79% of Klickitat County, they're looking at 35% of it would be fiber and 44% of it would be fixed wireless, which would basically include 59 towers and approximately 80,000 square feet of fiber. So that's going to be proposed. And the estimated cost for this project is $21 million. On that sheet that I just handed out, they have it broken down by options: A1, B2, C3, D4, E5, and F6. And that's basically what we're looking at as far as how it's broken down. So we also sent out a link. The link that we handed out or that we sent to the county commissioners, this form was very difficult to kind of bring up, which is why we're just handing it out to you. So you're not having not a very intuitive, friendly software that they handed out for this. But this is where we're at so far with that. And we're still working with Carrie out of McKed with the WSU extension grant for broadband as well.
Right.
So,
And it says municipal bond on there, but I believe that's the name of the tab in the spreadsheet as opposed to,
Yeah.
it's not proposing a bond, it's just, that's the name. of the
yes.
tab.
Yes, thank you for that clarification. Yeah, so mine says municipal bond analysis. Nothing to do with the bond, but just what the tab was in software, so. And then the last, but not least, I'll start off with city engagement. We've been meeting with the city of Bingen, and we were able to do a letter of support for their curb grant loan application that they're going to be applying for. That's for the water project down in Bingen. In addition to that, they're also looking at, hopefully I'm saying this correctly. So Krista, the city manager of Bingen, she can yell at me later. The economic development planning component, there's a portion of planning within curb that's just basically for planning purposes and economic development. And I'm going to be assisting with her on applying for that grant. That time frame is going to be October. And so we're starting to accumulate all the information that we need for that application.
Right, this is a follow-on to what was discussed at the EDA board meeting when we requested 9 funds. That they do a 75,000 planning project first.
Do they have a map of the coverage areas where they're planning on coverage for this?
Yes, they do, but we weren't able to really print it out. I could have done a web capture of it, but as you look at it with the 59 towers that they have on there with the circles and everything, it's not a very easily digestible map. It's not very easily read, which is why we just did the Excel sheet for you.
Eventually, I'm gonna get some kind of a map though.
Yes, eventually. And then Klickitat mill site. So since our last update meeting, we had a meeting on May 15th to discuss the constraints and liabilities of the site with ecology. It should be noted in attendance, we had a representative from the Yakima Nation Fisheries and Ecology, as well as Mid-Columbia Fisheries. We had some pointed questions about disturbing the concrete that's out there. And Ecology basically said that they would contact their lawyer, give us their opinion, and we would relay that to the county and Mr. David Quinnell. And what's also very interesting was the environmental covenants that applied to the site is really just that kind of that southern part of where that building was, but it doesn't, the environmental covenants apparently doesn't apply to where all the concrete's at. So, but how that interplays and whether or not it does or doesn't, hence the lawyer from Ecology giving us an opinion on that. And then it was heavily suggested by Ecology, Ali from the Brownsfield planning or the Brownsfield program that we pursued an integrated planning grant. So this would be kind of a twofold or 2-part grant. The first part would be drilling both vertical and horizontal underneath the concrete to see what exactly the contamination level is. And then the second part of that would be for land reuse planning and community planning / outreach. So it'd be kind of a 2-part grant for that. That's what they're heavily suggesting. Either way, I'm going to be working very closely with Jeff Hunter from Public Works on how we move forward with that, because I know that there's a PUD component to that as well as a state parks and trail portion. And that goes into, I don't know if everyone wants to see this map, I'll just go ahead and hand it out. So this is
So I get the grant to drill through the concrete to see what's down there. The problem is, what if you find something you don't want to find? Is there gonna be a grant to clean that up?
Yeah, so, and I gotta thank, Dave for this. So there is some agreements out there that can potentially help shield us and protect us against liabilities potentially that we need to do some research on.
I think right now that, there's some question, have we looked everywhere? And if the counties may contemplate taking that out of the trust position that the property's now in, where we've got shielding from liability, to take ownership of it in some way or do some work down there, is to do some further exploration, specifically under some of the cement there, and make sure we're not biting into something. What Richard's talking about, how do we continue to protect the county, and Prosecutor Cannell can advise on that, but there may be a couple of routes. One is this prospective purchaser agreement, is if that is available to the county, that's what they're using down at the aluminum smelter site, for example. You agreed to do some additional cleanup. There's extra environmental benefit, and you get the contamination quantified and a cleanup path forward, and you can get an agreement that you're not liable for legacy contamination. But it's to further try to make sure the county's covered there in the site list.
I just heard, I don't know if you'd heard it, Richard, that McCad just got brownfield cleanup money. Okay, Dave's
Oh,
shaking his head.
yeah, I have
Yeah.
They've applied for it. I don't know if they got it yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they've gotten it, but I
It's-
haven't spoken with Jessica. in about
I'd
a week
heard
or
about
so,
it and it sounded like it was awarded, but I didn't hear if it was for Washington and Oregon or just Oregon,
it-
was where my confusion
It is
was.
for both, but I believe it's more for community planning type activities, not necessarily for.
The grant, yeah, and I believe Klickitat Mill was in the application. I think
Okay.
we're covered in
Good.
that, whatever it's going to have available.
Okay,
As they applied for it, the county's only got really one property, it's Klickitat Mill site. So I have spoken with Jessica. And I will also add that the working group, we've also been in contact with State Park Senior Planners, Andrew Fielding and Brian Patnode, about that Klickitat Trail crossing over Snyder Creek. So the map I just gave everyone was they're proposing potentially to move that trail just south, so it's much closer to the highway. So, and you can see kind of where it is right now, and the dotted line is where they would like to potentially have it. So we're still, I mean, this is an idea that's proposed out there. We're still working through it, and we have a number of meetings that we're arranging for the month of June and July in this regard, so. And then last but not least, would you like to touch on? affordable
Maybe
housing?
touch on affordable housing. As you're aware, we have a affordable housing fund. There's two revenue streams for that. One revenue stream is document filing fee. We get on the order of $15,000 to $40,000 a year in that. 150 or so thousand it accumulated in that fund, and in 2017 had a round of grants for affordable housing projects that were done by Columbia Cascade Housing, Habitat for Humanity, et cetera, et cetera. That is built up to about 140,000 again. A few years ago, in 2020, WAGAP and Programs for Peaceful Living had, through Gina Mossbrucker, gotten some funding for a domestic violence shelter. The commissioners had supported that project and said the county would provide about $40,000 over a period of 3 to 4 years for that. And then COVID hit. So everything's been pushed back. We've been talking to Columbia Programs for Peaceful Living. We need to get that funding to them. We do have a process for that. Back in 2017, an affordable housing advisory board was set up, and it recommended the grants out of that tranche of money that was available then. It hasn't met since. The only grants really we've issued since that time have been to the shelter care program, which was one of the grants was recommended. Every year they come back for $10,000. We've got the grant agreement for for this year. We haven't got the invoice yet for 10,000. But the commissioners were thinking that the payment of, to the programs for peaceful living would come from this affordable housing fund. As I look at that, it does look like it's one of the allowed uses under emergency shelter. And we can fund operation of emergency shelter. In looking at the scope of work that programs for peaceful living proposed, there were capital projects in it. You know, they've got a mortgage to pay, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think we can cover that. So we need to get with them and get a little more specific on what scope of work, if we're going to use that funding source. And then get that to the, reconstitute that advisory committee and get that process through them.
Was that 40,000 or 40,000 over 3 years? I
Over,
mean, how's-
over 3 years.
Okay.
It had contemplated 20,000 the first year and 2 years at
Okay.
10,000 each.
Okay.
Is that shelter actually still moving forward and getting built?
My understanding it's operational.
Okay.
They had one in Goldendale. This might be, I don't know where it is.
Well, it's supposed to be here, but I've never heard anything about it.
They had a place identified and it fell through. And my understanding is they've got something going now.
Huh?
Yeah.
Cause
But-
I heard they had a place and it fell through, but I haven't heard they got anything going, so.
Maybe we can have them come in and.
Cause that was gonna be my question is, yeah, I have no problem giving it to you, but shouldn't you have to get it going before I give you money? But if they've already got it going, then I'll honor the previous boards, you know.
Especially given that to fund an emergency shelter, it can only be for the operational fund. It says for operating an emergency shelter, so. So we have got that. The other thing with that, within that fund is another revenue stream. We get a portion of the state's sales and use tax sent back to us. We can get up to $54,000 a year because it's capped on the amount of revenue we received in 2019, I believe it was. The cities, the 3 cities opted to have the county serve as the fiduciary agent, if you will, for that whole pot of money for all the cities and the county. We have an agreement with them. We will sit down and develop a process for distributing those revenues. I think Richard's got a meeting set up tentatively for what, June 6th?
I think June 6th or June 8th with the city of Bingen. And we're gonna wait till the mayor of White Salmon gets back from vacation.
Yeah. So we need to get a
So,
meeting.
but they're gonna get their share, their incorporated funds, but the county's still gonna have its own piece.
No, it's all coming into one pot.
Right, but they had the choice to do their own, and then the
Yeah.
county would have had their non-incorporated own pot.
Right.
So I'm trying to make sure there's 4 entities, 3 cities and 1 county.
Right.
I want to make sure when it gets dispersed, there's 4 entities.
And I think that's one of the
I don't know
topics
that all of them feel that way.
Yeah, I think that's part of the discussion. How does that get distributed? And it's not like it's going to be money going to Bingen. It's going to be, you know, WAGAP or Columbia Cascade Housing apply for a project and they would get a contract with the county, and somehow we need a board. And the discussion back at the beginning of this was it could be done under the auspices of the EDA because the 3 cities and the county sit at that table, and we could form a subcommittee that looks at affordable housing and vet the applications through that. And that could provide a venue for that.
This is the same funding that Jonathan was looking for, right, for Rhine Village?
He was looking at the the document filing fee, because we didn't have that process up and running.
Right, but it's still that same funding source, right? Yeah. And we never did anything with that.
No, we did. We told them no.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
That was the outcome, as I recall.
I mean, trust the process. I worry that the process is going to turn into the citizens in the unincorporated areas subsidizing housing for people in the city. And the city's fighting that they not only want their share, but they want some other city share as well, and they want the unincorporated county share. So we'll fight that battle when we get there. And
And we're gonna be sitting down with three mayors. I would suggest that it would be entirely appropriate if one of the board members wants to sit in on that discussion and. Yeah, particularly. if you-
worst case scenario, we can just divide it up next year and they can apply for their own and get their own, and then they can only have their own, and then I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
So that was a previous board's decision, so.
Okay. Well, I guess that wraps it up for economic development, unless you got.
Good.
Got choices? Okay.
Thank you, Richard.
Okay, for natural resources. The Lead Unity Grant Program, the surfboard funding rounds moving through fairly smoothly. We had 3 projects. We had the site visit by the state's technical review panel. The feedback from the panel is that 2 of the projects are green lighted. So they have no issues or questions. One of the projects has questions. That's the land trust project. And looking at them, I think they should be able to fairly easily address those, but we'll see. So most of it's clarification, is it 13 structures? Is it 14 or whatever? So there needs to be some clarifications made by the land trust. The Commissioner Anderson will be coordinating the technical committee meeting on the 6th, on the 8th, when they review the projects and score them. Jennifer is prepared, we've got Google Sheets. This process was used last year. So the members of the technical committee are getting those, and we'll get them scored during the meeting. The Citizens Review Committee meets on the 15th. Again, Commissioner Anderson will coordinate that meeting or facilitate it. CRC members will be provided with Google Sheets via email, but they are being encouraged to show up in person. And we'll be checking out to make sure there aren't any issues trying to use the Google Sheets if you're not on a Google, don't operate in a Google world like the county does. And then we've sort of got the process laid out after that. It's submitted project by Surfboard. There's some due dates. I think last year we've got a lot of materials. You can take a look at what was submitted last year. I had a phone conversation with the with the Yakima and Lower Columbia funding boards last week. We don't have a certain number in terms of funding available. We'll see. We'll be able to cover what's about $1,150,000 asked from this area. But the Lower Columbia informed us that they don't have many projects this year, and some of the projects they do have are projects of concern. They may have enough surplus to send up upwards of 400,000 our way. But that's uncertain at this point. They'll keep us informed. So I think we have
No projects?
no, they have projects, but they have a light load of projects relative to usual,
Wow.
at least in terms of the ask. And I haven't seen their list. We discussed that we'll have a new person coming on board here. Yakima Fish Recovery Board has offered to us provide any assistance we need in terms of addressing the questions the new lead entity coordinator may have. So we've got some support there. RCO, Recreation Conservation Office, is aware we're changing jockeys in the middle of the race. So they're prepared to provide some additional clarifications and support if needed. But I think we can get through this, particularly given, we've got some good examples from past years of what we need to submit. We're currently working on getting the grant together for the coming biennium. This is for our operational grant. Funding's going up to 90,000. It was 60,000 this year. So that'll be helpful. Jennifer and I've worked with, reviewed the proposed grant agreement, got, or scope of work, and that material's been provided back to RCO, and, you know, we should be getting, if not this week, in the next couple of weeks, getting that grant board to consider for the coming biennium.
That's great.
Pardon?
That's great. Extra dollars. Was there much change in the
No.
deliverables?
No. No, it's pretty much the same thing.
Good.
Okay, another project we're working on is Dry Butler Creek. You know, we've discussed this before. We're looking at a couple of creeks up in the Simcoe Mountains to potentially provide sites for an in-stream water storage project. We've been doing data collection, contracted with the Conservation District to do data collection up there. We've got an $80,000 grant. We have got, let's see, where are we? We've got about 44, no, that's not it. We've got 25,000 of that left for the basin yield analysis work. We've got about $3,000 in it for county staff time. The budget for the field collection work is exhausted. So I need to fund that work. I don't think we will be able to get additional funding out of Ecology on this. I have in my budget, in the natural resources budget, about 29,000. I put about 30,000 in that budget every year to handle projects that come up during the year. That money is still there. I'd suggest we look at that. I understand from Lauren, it's would cost about 6,500 to get us through the end of this water year, which is October. He proposes at that time to do a preliminary basin yield analysis because of the issues they've had up there with stream flow gauges getting blown out, et cetera. The data are not ideal. And based on that preliminary analysis, determine whether we should go for another year of monitoring, which would be about $10,000. So that's where.
What is the purpose of all this monitoring?
To find out about how much water is coming off of that, out of those drainages in the year. If we put a dam in it, you know, are we going to get, do we have the supply coming off the snowpack and
Are we
rain?
as a county gonna put a dam in it?
We have not determined who would do that yet. Potentially the county or some other entity. It's just, can we do it? I mean, we've got, water is.
You want to get a little bit more about why we put a dam in for Commissioner Christopher and what we've looked at in the past for that?
Right. We have done a number of studies over the last 20 years trying to look at water storage opportunities because water supply is getting increasingly difficult to get. Right now in the Little Klickitat Basin, it's dependent on snowmelt in the Simcoes. We have issues with stream flow in the Little Klickitat River. Right now, there is not an in-stream flow on that. We're able to get, for example, permit exempt wells drilled, but that day's coming to an end at some point. And it may be 5 years, but it's coming. And the storage project, it takes a long time to do the studies and line things up to get something built. So, I mean, it's
Right, but
like
my question
100-fold or better increase. If we look at the summer flows in the Little Klickitat, this could be 100-fold increase in what is there in the summer. So it would be store the water in the winter when it's available and then release it in summer when there are low flows. So there's water in the Little Klickitat River for fish and people are able to drill wells out there and count on this as mitigation.
Okay.
So I guess the question is, I would like to proceed or have Richard and Lynn proceed with getting a contract amendment with the Conservation District, make sure that that's be able to handle some additional money, and then look at pulling money out of county money out of my budget to fund that.
I need more information on the project. I need a full scope on the project. I need to know, is the city of Goldendale asking for this? Is some other entity asking for this? Are we trying to be in the water rights 10 years down the road? I know nothing about it, so I cannot vote yes or no
Okay.
until I get a full briefing on what the hell is going on. So 2 years first of her. So, yeah, sorry.
Well, I think it's more long range and we've been working on it.
Right, it
Yeah.
was, I mean, this project's been going on. This
Right.
specific project in 2017, we started doing studies of opportunities to do water storage in 2004. And these, the opportunities just sort of narrow and narrow and narrow, and this is where we are with this.
And I'd like to see as fast as we can make sure that we can move forward and complete what we've been working on. So we're ready for the next phase.
Right. And today, all of this has been with ecology grant dollars, no county dollars. This is the first time county dollars has gone. Will have gone.
But will it be the last time?
It depends
That's
on
the
whether
question.
something's built.
So I don't need more information considering I worked on the project and you've brought it up and let us know about it over the last couple of years during the meetings when things were getting blown out and as it was getting pushed back. We are a long ways into this project. It should have been done in 2021, but we've had issues with the stream flow gauges and costs continue to go up. And I'd say that that's a small price to pay for the information that we're going to get. We have continued to narrow this down on these storage projects. We were talking about using Spring Creek for one for a long time, and then we looked higher and higher in the basin. And I think that you are reading the tea leaves absolutely correctly, that in the future, when in-stream flow rules are going to get set, we're going to be much like the Skagit County, where you can no longer drill wells anywhere that's in continuity with the Skagit River. By doing that, that would completely stop all development within Klickitat County, within the central part of the county, and that we need to do everything we can to plan and prepare for that. This is a very small price to pay for trying to ensure that the residents of Klickitat County will continue to have access to water. So I have no problem with it. It is in your budget. You don't need a change in your grants or anything else. I'm fine with it.
And I agree. It's been a long range thing for a long, long time. Even when I was back in the water world, we knew less and less water all the time was coming. And we've made these long range plans today, and I'd like to see it finished so we can move. And it doesn't just touch City of Goldendale. It impacts a lot of people, a lot of different ways that we use water. And we have to know what we have or what we can produce so that we can offset the regulations that are probably coming.
Right.
We have to have the documentation.
I mean, this is in the same order of what we've been doing with well monitoring for the last bundle of years, is trying to create a record so that we can actually know what we do and don't have. And so when we do get to comprehensive planning, we know what's available and what's out there.
Yeah, it's
So-
called best available science.
Right.
And if we've got it.
You got 2 votes.
Okay.
That's all you need, 2 against 0, because I didn't vote. So,
Okay.
again, I have to actually know about a project before I sign off on taxpayer money about it.
Yeah. I think I will move forward then with letting the Conservation District know that I plan on doing that. Funding and continuing to do work. And I think we'll set up having a discussion of what that project is. And maybe I can get you some some reports in the interim so that you can see how we got where we are.
Okay, that'd be good.
You're gonna get that done in 2 days on top of everything else you have?
I'll get it eventually from someone,
Yeah,
if the project is still around eventually.
I would also like to say, thank you for your 16 years of dedicated service to Klickitat County. You have done so many things for this county that most people have no idea about. So I know this is your last meeting, but
Right.
it has not gone unseen and unheard.
it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, 205 unfinished business, continued discussion of adult probation staffing requests. So 2 weeks ago, Mr. Anderson, you wanted us to hold this over till today and so that we can take a vote and know where we are. So that's why we're here.
Well, it would have been really interesting for just me to vote on something. Since Lori wasn't.
Verbal approval.
It also had budget implications. It was also mentioned last week when we talked about the budget, and it was brought up with regards to the youth center that there's a time and a place for adding time and expenses. So I think that needs to be taken into account. It was not part of the supplemental budget. It was just asked for with regards to this office. So I think it's also, we need to have that conversation, and now that Lori's here. How do you feel about this?
I still have a very different view about it. It's very, and Courtney did send us a sheet today. Did you get it on your email? It was a concise ask, which was a good way to look at it. It is very much two separate issues. My biggest problem that I'm still struggling with is, and I was not here when it happened, but I see that so many times going forward about being organized, staying within the parameters of what a job description says. When we've migrated from that, we've seen ourselves get into stipends and different things where we've had to add extra things. This job description speaks to the paperwork that goes with the job. So I'm having trouble separating out, adding more and adding more hours when the job description is agreed upon. That's what it spoke to. I did get an explanation that there is expanded with that, in that probably the department head or the director has a more technical side to that paperwork that comes through, getting it ready to go to the court. And there's more knowledge that has to be applied by the person doing the job than just the smaller amount of paperwork. But the technical things that have to be answered for the court and turned into the court have to be prepared in a certain way. And Courtney has overseen that and helped with that for now. But if that is the shift that's going to happen and the person in that position is going to take that on too, I just want to ensure that we acknowledge that in the job description, and we also put an end date on that, because I don't want Courtney to keep giving up time and effort for paperwork coming in that she has to keep producing to give to the courts. The person in that position needs to understand how to do that job, get it done, and turn it in. Is that making sense?
What do you mean by an end date?
Courtney has picked up this ball for a year now, almost, or so. She's been doing it for a long time and has came in with the ask of, let's transition this. And that's what it needs to be, a transition. I know they're looking at another transition, possibly if caseloads increase and there's more work, that maybe in a year it'll transition again. I don't want to see her impacted for another year carrying this ball. if we are going to spend the money and say, yes, the hours and yes, the money, then I would like to have assurances that, and within the job description, they can fully do that job, say, within 60 days with proper training from Courtney. I don't want hand holding for a year saying, well, we just aren't ready to do this paperwork and pass it on ourselves now. Responsibility for the job position is what I'm saying.
So are you in favor of it or not?
It's really tough for me. Looking as is with the job description, no, I am not, because that wasn't the definition within the job description. But what it migrated into, how do we now unwire this so that Courtney's not doing a job that actually, what I see belongs within the job description? Does that make-
I just wanted to clarify. The current job description for the litter crew supervisor doesn't do any paperwork for the community service clientele. That's completely separate. And so right now, even the litter crew supervisor is having to hand off reports to myself or our case manager to verify what we need to do next before it goes to the court. So ideally, every court, we would like it to do things the same way, but they don't. And they don't, the documents are, if there's a box not checked, we have to do something different based on that document. So it's very precise, and we have to be very clear about making sure that this order allows us to do a bench probation request or it doesn't, and then therefore we have to do a memo. And so there's different things we have to do based on the case and the court. That's where the current supervisor, litter crew supervisor, has to filter it through myself or the case manager. Now, the case manager has this like bundle, a huge bundle of community service clients he has to monitor as well. We want the litter crew supervisor to absorb that. That would be an added duty to the current litter job description. It's not written in to do any of the community service stuff, completely separate. Ideally, I would like by January 1, by then that litter crew supervisor would know how to do all the paperwork and be specific in each case and looking at those records and saying, okay, this is what I need to do with this one not, because this one wasn't checked, you know, being very precise in those. If that person is able to do that, I'd like to look in moving that position into the litter crew community service coordinator position, which was a job position within our department many years ago. So there's already a job description for that. And it just bumps her up a pay grade. So it wouldn't be necessarily an increase in funds because she would stay in the same pay step, dollar amount that she gets now. It's just up a pay grade and down so that there's an opportunity for growth in that pay grade. Does that make sense?
So this is the first we're hearing about this, right?
That's my futuristic goals.
That doesn't have a budget implication.
Right now, I'm
Yeah,
just
it
looking
does.
at this
doesn't.
person absorbing more duties that is not in the job description, moving that into that job description. So that,
Go up a pay grade, and I'm just clarifying. If you go up a pay grade, but instead of a step 5, you're down to a step 3 or whatever, it's essentially just matching the same pay that you were at below it
right,
within pennies.
right,
It's not a budget implication more than potentially pennies.
correct.
HR
That's
can
the
correct me if I'm
hope.
wrong.
If the current employee could, and it show me that there's that ability to do that job correctly and thoroughly.
So the person currently doesn't do those duties with regards to filling out the paperwork and everything else? It
Not to
goes-
its full extent, no.
And is that part of the job description as it currently is? Is that a duty that they're supposed to be doing?
No,
So all they're really doing is just the litter crew and filling out the
they
forms.
fill
and
out the
then-
forms and then they report it to myself or the case manager. And then if they successfully complete their hours, there's a memo she fills out to say they completed their hours, and then we do the rest to the court.
So essentially out
We
of
have the
35 hours,
experience.
you have literally 30 hours in a vehicle picking up trash. And 5 hours doing all paperwork, administrative scheduling and everything for the week is in the 5 hours.
And grant reporting
In grant report.
and logging all that grant data.
And only 30 hours is actually paid for by the grant. I just would like an answer to this, whether it's yes, no, or indifferent, because I feel very bad for our employee who's probably wasted more than $5,000 in staff hours arguing for this for 6 months without being told an answer, yes, no, or indifferent. So I'd like to get it over with and put it to bed so it isn't on our agenda every 2 weeks. Why do we jerk an employee around, making them fill out more forms? It's very frustrating for me to sit on the sidelines through that.
I know this has a very personal take. It's pretty obvious by how hard you're squeezing your little ball.
No, that's frustration on the board's part, because personally, yes, it's personal and I don't really care what the answer is. Part of me really hopes it's no. So it's not a yes or a no for me. I just want it done.
So
What I would also state is that this isn't just a request for one individual and employee in my office.
Right.
Really, it's about streamlining the duties within my office because myself and my case manager, we're overloaded. We're doing more than we probably should.
Mhm.
Just a lot of work, and we know a storm's coming with casework. It's coming with new laws changing. And so I'm just trying to streamline our office so that we're working more efficiently and effectively. And this is where I am able to financially come to you. Like, it's not a huge ask. My work up for if you were to approve it for June 1st to the remainder of the year, it's only an ask of like less than $5,500 extra than what my current budget supports. I didn't ask it in my original supplement because I didn't know that that was an option at the moment. At that time, I had already came to you and it was kind of a no at that point. And so that's why I didn't ask for it. I'm not gonna come to you and do a supplemental request without knowing that you guys are gonna support it first. I didn't feel like that was appropriate. I wouldn't do that. I would ask for permission first before I come to you and try to, I'm not sneaky. I'm not gonna like sneak something through. So I definitely want to be transparent. I feel like this is something that an easy fix to help pretty tremendously.
So here, now I have to clarify in my mind again, because the paperwork evidently wasn't as I understood the paperwork to be, or the position. So the paperwork we're talking about is your coworker in your office that reviews, tell me the name of the paperwork again, which reports they're working on.
So
You're trying to shift from that person over to the,
community service. So we have community service clients that can't do litter crew.
okay,
Okay. Our litter crew supervisor is, based on the job description, is only doing
Litter crew.
outgoing, doing litter crew pickup, and then calling and doing the paperwork for the litter crew individuals. Community service clients We're having to fact check nonprofit agencies, make sure that they're approved before they start doing community service, get them their timesheets, make sure they're reported back in time so we can log it in on time and get it to the court. Those are duties extra that our case manager is doing, that he really needs to be spending that time individually with our probation clients that are high risk. There's a lot of, mental health, drug affected individuals right now. And so he needs to be spending that time with them, not spending this extra hours on community service. That's something that I believe our litter crew supervisor can absorb.
Does that help clear things up?
That,
Wayne?
that clears it up more for me because it wasn't at all the paperwork I thought was shifting.
Okay.
I still have concerns about the longevity of hands-on for you or your coworker versus handing it over. You're ready to do it, get it done. A time frame of when that person can actually accomplish this goal and be paid for it and do that work.
And I
don't wanna
have that on
see-
my end.
Yeah, I don't want to see a year if we approve something that, this is almost like for me adjusting the job description because you're adding another duty.
Right, which I've worked with HR about that too. We're just adjusting it's like one or two job duties from the case manager to the litter crew supervisor. It's not a significant amount of change of duties. Doesn't appear that way, but there is. And the deadline that would come, I believe, more appropriately come on my end, based on how quickly they are to speed up. And if it doesn't work out, then I will scale back and we'll figure out another option.
So my next question, now that you've told us your long-term plan, so we're gonna take this from 35 to 40 hours.
Okay?
And in that 40 hours, you think that this person can continue to do exactly what they're doing on the litter pickup
Mhm.
and scheduling, and they're gonna have 5 hours to do the community service side, which it's both community service, that's not a big deal. But then your goal next year is to also have them then fill out the paperwork to submit to the courts and everything else. If they're working a 40-hour week, where already, and where are they gonna get the extra time in order to do that? Because I'm trying to figure out how to take that load off of you.
Understood. So maybe if I could be more precise, litter crew supervisor, if she is doing the community service court monitoring as well, she's fact checking everything. This is true and correct, right? She's gonna do a memo, like, yes, they completed everything, and then she's gonna give that to the case manager or myself, and we're gonna review it, the court order, which is simply just looking at it. And then there's a couple extra steps. And if everything looks all right, then her next step would be, do I send a memo or do I do a request for bench probation and make sure, the correct cause numbers are on it and it's going to the right court and those there's little particulars that are very important that need to be looked at. If she's already done all the work of making sure that this hours are all legit, it wouldn't be a huge amount of extra time to fill out the correct paperwork and submit it to the court, fax it or drop it off. Really, it's just myself and the case manager proofreading, making sure the work is correct and then telling them, okay, now do the request for bench or do a memo, and then we'll sign off and submit it to the court. That I'd like to eventually move on to her so that we're not having to do that. But I'd like to make sure that we've had it at a time when Mr. Crow first started doing both. Coming back onto our office as a case manager and doing community service, not knowing how adult probation works versus his history with juvenile, accidentally requesting bench probation when they're not ready, because he's thinking they did their hours, they're done, request bench. Well, he doesn't know he could have
done a better job at looking through the notes and double checking the file to see that there's other stuff that's not done yet, that he shouldn't have done that. So then we're in a panic to try to reverse it, which is very difficult. So that's what I'm trying to prevent, is if I could oversee it for till the end of the year to make sure that she's got it streamlined, everything's good. I feel like she doesn't have a problem getting it done correctly, moving forward, then I would like to get that off my desk.
I guess I want to speak for a second and remind the board that this is a position under another elected official, that elected official manages these employees, and we should not, as a board, be micromanaging these employees. We are in charge of the piggy bank. So the answer is yes and no. Not telling them how they should manage their employees is my recommendation. Going forward with all elected officials, not just these.
And I'm not micromanaging anyone's employees. I'm looking how we're applying those dollars and where that's going to get us.
And I think in order to make a decision, you need to understand how it's working in order, and I hear what you're saying, Commissioner Zoller. With that, do you feel like you have enough information to make a decision?
The other factor was, we've talked about it before, and I know these are two separate subjects, but in a perfect world, had you found that third person, this would stay within your office, and then you'd be dividing up these duties anyhow so that you guys could fact check those to go to the court. There wouldn't be such a big burden if there weren't just two of you. Is that correct?
Right.
Or would you still be looking?
I mean, it's hard to say about filling another case, our other case manager or vacant one, because there's no funding available for that right now. So it's hard to even consider that at this point. I mean, I think that it might come up in the future? Probably. I think numbers change all the time, and it's like a roller coaster. And those are numbers that are unpredictable because that comes from our communities, our law enforcement, our prosecutors, our courts. Those are outside of my control. I don't know what's going to happen. Legislators change things all the time that affect us negatively and positively. So with the new legislation changes coming up, my best guess is our numbers are going to increase. And so this is my ask of, well, here's me trying to prepare my office to get ready for it. I need to be skimp where I can with duties. Like, okay, if I can free up a few hours here and there with each position, then maybe we can all do a little bit better with what we got. But I can't wait any longer right now.
And I'm not micromanaging, and I don't know your paperwork or each piece of it and how much time it takes to do it. But what I'm concerned about is I keep hearing we're going to shift it, but it's still coming back, and you're going to touch it, and you're going to look through it, and it's still going to be on your plate for the next year.
But I think that's also a supervisor's job, is to,
don't
while they're
understand.
learning, I have to supervise and make sure that they're doing the job correctly. I don't think that's necessarily,
I don't see what we're alleviating for you then.
because the work, I don't have to do the work. She's doing the legwork. I'm just supervising, double checking it before she submits it. Does that make sense? Like she would submit to me and I'm like, that's not correct, do it this way. That kind of supervising or that kind of fact checking.
You would not be emailing and calling the clients and scheduling their volunteer hours and any of that kind of stuff.
No.
Correct.
I would not be having to check the file to make sure we got the rules and the agreements and the waivers signed. I would not have to be calling the client saying, hey, we haven't seen any hours reported for the month. Are you doing it or not? if you don't get it done by this time, we're gonna terminate you and send it back to court and you're looking at jail time. She would also be potentially looking at having to, support her work in court eventually. But that comes with her job duties now. Like something happens on the litter crew, that requires, like an incident report or even hours taken away because they violated the rules. That could potentially require her to come to court and testify based on what she saw. Like, I can't necessarily speak on her behalf in court if an attorney wants to swear her in under oath. So those are things that she's already doing, but she would have to more of that just because of the numbers she would be absorbing of cases for community service and litter crew.
So I have a question of HR, where you're adding extra duties to a position, extra defined specific duties, now that I understand them. Do you adjust that in the paperwork in the files somewhere so that if this person quits or goes away and we hire new, then they know walking in, they absolutely have these duties and that one is still on there?
Yes, when this was first discussed, there were 2 lines that were specific on the job duties in the case manager position
Okay,
that were going to move to the litter supervisor. And it was those 2 duties and only those 2. And so they would be removed from one and added to the other, and it wouldn't make a reclassification, or the additional duties wouldn't require any other grade placement or changes or anything.
okay. Well,
Now, how do you feel?
I feel that Courtney does know her position and she does know what she needs relief from. I am more confident because it is denoted on the job description. And in case something happens to that person, we aren't left in the lurch again. We actually are hiring that person and they're going to do these things. My only loss still is, I think, a year is a long time. I would like to know that someone coming into a position can do their job and can be monitored for a month or so and we can move them on, but that's going to be up to you and the judges. And I think if it relieves the burden for you and this is your scope where you see you're moving towards, I could support that.
And I'd just like to say, I know how hard you're working and I know how much you guys have on your plates. And we've talked in my office about how much you have to do, and with the changes that have happened in the department over the last year and a half and with the soon to be retirement and that training, I'm happy to give you any ability you can in order to alleviate some of that. So I personally, and I've had my mind made up for a while, but I wanted to make sure everybody, Lori was here and understood. And so I would move forward with the change in the job classification and the additional 5 hours so that you can get that added to the next supplemental. It's a small increase, but it hopefully will have a big impact on your budget. Well, not your budget, but your office.
Yes.
Um,
I believe it will be, and thank you. I appreciate it. There's nobody better in my office to come to you asking for help than myself. I've done every single position in the department other than actually being on the work crew, but I did community service monitoring.
I thought you were going to
Clerk,
say
everything.
you were on community service at one point.
No,
We
I
saw
never
you
wanted
out
to get up
there.
as early as Steve did.
I paid my way out of service.
Did that mean you spent time in jail?
No, I'm a petty criminal. I
right.
got somebody wet once.
Thank you.
I think you have your, yeah. No, on a personal note on that one, I would have preferred to know. That's just
I can
me
change, I
personally.
can change it if you want. I was
For
gonna
a
ask.
stress-free home
Run.
life. But for a Courtney, I appreciate.
I
the
had my
vote.
mind made up till you said, now you want to know.
Probably do need to vote on it at some point.
We will. You were getting verbal, but
That's
you
not
you
why
need
I'm
to
here.
vote right now.
Not why I'm here. If I may, I'd like to remind the commissioners, tomorrow's Marty Hudson's retirement from 3 to 5, 33 years, I think, 32 years. So I want to make sure you were reminded of that, and the public's, everybody's invited to celebrate a career well done.
Nice
Yes,
guy.
it is. I unfortunately will be in the Dalles, so, but if I get back early, I will try to make sure I swing in. We are way late for our 2:15. Which is public hearing to continued, closed to further public comment to reconsider approval of shoreline substantial development permit and shoreline conditional use permit. Number SH 2022-03 pit site trailhead project. Staff is here, so I'm sure she's got news.
Well, on May 16th, the board approved SH 2020-203 with additional conditions and asked staff to prepare the permit and with updated findings for signature. At such time, the permit will be forwarded to Department of Ecology for final approval.
Did
Did you have a
that,
chance to take a look at
I was
that?
gonna say, did that permit with the conditions, was that in our packet? And did I just miss it reading through our packet?
It's.
Really?
Yeah,
It's in
it's
there.
I don't know.
Very last
That might be the
13
first thing I've
through-
missed.
Yeah, and everything was out.
18
Conditions.
or 19, 18. Every condition that you mentioned was added. I worded it as best that I could.
Thank you for that. I completely missed it. Okay, so they're off at 13.
Should it be southeast?
Which number are you looking at?
I'm looking at number 14.
Oh,
Not very far away.
Southeast. Maybe more east?
Oh, I guess it is southeast right there. Nope, you're right. I had it twisted in my head.
And I also did, instead of refer to the letter from Public Works, I included their conditions in the permit, so it was a little more easily accessible for the commissioners. That was on number 9. Condition.
Is that how you recall it? Or was there something else?
No, I didn't bring that paperwork in. Well, I don't like the way 14's written, because it says they're gonna consult with WashDOT to ensure the public has safe, well, I don't trust WashDOT, another state agency that would have to actually build the crosswalk or what have you, doing that's like Fox running the hen house.
That was a difficult one to word.
Yeah. That's Fox running the hen house. They're gonna look at it, and go, oh, no, it's fine. Until the first, I don't know, 3 people get hit. Then it'd be just like Lyle Sandbar, and they'll go, no, it's fine. So, yeah, I can't get there on that one. I don't have my other.
And we
list
do
for
have,
now.
you know,
So either have to run to my office and get my list, or we hold it over, your choice.
Go run to your office. It's only 3 o'clock. This is the last thing. Hopefully.
I did listen to the recording to make sure I didn't miss any items, conditions.
I have no concerns here. You did good.
But yeah, 14 was difficult because WashDOT is.
I was coming to get you.
I
I didn't know
mean-
if you left your phone, like I do all the time.
Let's see, it starts on 14. 13 was a condition that the planning
Right.
commission added. So 14 through 18, I believe.
So I guess I'm kind of fine with WashDOT doing a parking or a traffic study to see if they need to put some kind of light or the safety of the entrance to the actual pit site, but I mean, I guess I just, again, this is chicken in the hen house or fox in the hen house thing to me.
Would you notice that it's the applicant is to coordinate with WashDOT, not to have WashDOT do it. They are to do their own traffic study. So.
Well, I get it, but it isn't coming before us. It's going, state agency one is talking to state agency two. And we're out of the loop and, you know, wash my back, I'll wash your back and, you know.
What
yeah,
I
no, don't.
saw
I can't
in-
go there.
If I can comment, what I saw in the
Actually,
records.
you recuse yourself, so you can't comment.
Okay.
I'm just
WashDOT does a good
saving
job.
you. Just saving you.
Okay. Just a little
Um,
helpful.
I mean, I can get behind that, but not without the crosswalk. The crosswalk's gotta be a mandatory. I'm not leaving it to them because I've seen the pit site. Or I've seen the Lyle Sandbar site and they absolutely refuse to do it, even though it's a public safety risk.
were
So
you
there's
request-
no way that WashDOT is going to want to do it. Especially when you're asking them, hey, do you think you should do this? Of course, they're gonna say no, because they're the ones that gotta pay for it. So I'm fine with the traffic study about cars pulling into and out of the site. But there's just gotta be a crosswalk. I can't get on it without a crosswalk.
I don't know if we have the ability to require the state agency to put a crosswalk across a state highway. I would just ask
We
that
don't,
question.
they can either have it or they don't get a permit. You're trying to get me from a no to a yes. This is a condition on getting from a no to a yes.
I can completely understand if this was a county road where we would have the jurisdiction to say that. But if you're requiring a traffic study, which means a traffic engineer will review that by an outside third party, you have to trust the outside third party who has the license on the line, don't you?
Potentially, if they were doing a study and it was submitting to me for, I mean, technically, the traffic study should have been done as part of the permit and affects part of our ruling. That should be done before we make a decision. Not after, not Fox running the hen house after. Because I guarantee you their answer is no, there won't be any cars, any new traffic. That was already their testimony. We don't think it's going to increase any traffic volume, even though they're building a parking lot 5 times bigger than this one that's there, but they don't think it's going to get used at all. They don't think it's a safety risk, apparently pulling across traffic with a horse trailer on a 90-degree corner, and we sure didn't look because it has nothing to do with the boundaries of the pit site. So nobody looked on what the safety of pulling a horse trailer is on a 90-degree corner. Nobody's looked. Because it doesn't pertain to inside the boundaries of the pit site. So, and now we're gonna, here, go ahead and you guys can do your own study on whether you should spend money or not. And we trust your opinion. I don't. So it either, that answer needs to either be written in there as a condition that alleviates any further worry going forward, or I cannot be a yes. Because I have no doubt that, you know, maybe people trust state government more than I do. I don't trust our state government, I'm sorry. In almost no form, fashion, or any other.
Well, I would state as always that I think our employees at the state, federal, and local level are professionals, and they take their jobs very seriously, and they don't try to put people at harm, and they don't try to add liability to themselves or others. And there is an entire book on building roads and ingress and egress off of county and state roads.
So why is there no crosswalk at Lyle, and why will the state not put sidewalks and mandated by their own state law in Klickitat on their
I know,
state
Chief.
highway? Because they don't want to. Or the laws don't apply to them.
So I'm sure you were listening.
Yes.
I'm trying to get to something that we can live with. Commissioner Christopher wants to require that there be a crosswalk across the state highway. Can we do that?
That is the question, because we don't really have jurisdiction over a state highway. However, this is our shoreline permit. So this is what we need to forward on to ecology for them to review. An applicant has an opportunity to appeal the decision if they disagree with that, but that's up to them to decide. Today, we are trying to get to a conclusion that we can actually send on to ecology, a decision from our local authority, us, the commissioner. And so if 14 is the only question that we have some issues with, we can certainly make changes to that, to something that Commissioner Christopher is comfortable to sign on behalf of the county. We're trying to phrase it because we don't know if we can actually make that happen. However, this is an intermediate decision. This is not the final decision of the shoreline permit. We still need to get ecologists okay before they actually have permission to start the constructions if they choose to. Yeah.
And then the other one I had was 18, where you have the fence that's labeled optional. I would like to see better wording that fence goes down, start to finish of the property, so the horse can't just shortcut around that small fence that was actually in their blueprint.
On the site plan, that's not optional. That's how we refer to the site plan that's currently on file.
Right.
I did have a conversation with the manager, Mr. Patno. And on the phone, he agreed to put up the fence. And that's why we asked them to provide like an updated site plan for us to make sure that that is the area that they
Okay.
currently label optional, but that's actually where they need to put the fence.
Good enough. Yeah, no, to me, it's the traffic study, even though I don't necessarily 100% trust it, but I can go with it. But I either need to see the traffic study for the road turning in there with horse trailers, and people saying, oh, no, it'll be fine. And no, you don't need a crosswalk before I make a ruling, or I need to see on here, the condition is traffic study to make sure people turning are fine, and mandatory crosswalk.
So is this, am I understand this correctly? Is we need to add, is required after traffic study? And then you are comfortable to sign that?
No, because I don't want the traffic study to determine if a crosswalk to the pit site trailhead. To me, there's two things. It's the traffic study to make sure the vehicles turning into the parking lot is safe, and then it needs crosswalk. Because I honestly think their bathroom is gonna cause users on the river to run across the street. Because they're building a bathroom. I think they're gonna get people parking in there, they run across the river. These aren't people that are gonna be using the trailhead. So to me, there has to be a crosswalk in the traffic study to decide whether they should build a big elaborate parking lot on a 90-degree corner. Is a good traffic safety decision on allowing horse trailers and whatnot to pull into a 90-degree corner.
They did analysis on sight lines and everything else with regards to that corner, did they not, when they did it, in order to,
No,
they have to engineer it. In order to engineer it, you have to design it to state code. We, just the same way we do with anybody who wants access to a county
for the
road.
approach,
For the approach, you have to prove that it meets all of the county requirements
We
and state
don't-
requirements.
I don't know that we let people put their road approach, driveway approach on a 90-degree corner anymore.
Is that's a 25-mile-an-hour corner or 20? That's a 20. So a 90-degree corner at 20 miles an hour is within the same in every city. It's a 90-degree corner. You actually have a lot better sight lines than on a Y.
So we just update the condition. If that's okay, can you,
Oh.
maybe you can read it?
Okay, so the first statement I believe you're okay with, the applicant is to coordinate with WashDOT to ensure the public has safe ingress, egress from SR 142 to the trailhead parking lot. The second statement, prepare a traffic study to ensure a crosswalk between the pit site trailhead parking lot across SR 142 to the existing unimproved parking area to the southeast.
Yeah, no,
Due to
I
safety
can't get past
concerns.
that statement because it still allows them to do a traffic study and decide whether they want to.
So here's what we really say.
The crosswalk's either mandatory or canceled.
So the applicant is to coordinate with WashDOT to prepare a traffic study to ensure the public has safe ingress egress from State Route 142 to the trailhead parking lot.
I can
So
get
that's,
behind that one.
so that's first
That
statement.
addresses the horse trailers turning into the parking.
Oh.
The second one is the crosswalk, and it still allows them to do a study and decide for themselves on if they want to do that. And I don't think they're gonna do that very fairly, so.
And then the second one, we just say a crosswalk between the pit side trailhead parking lot across State Route 142 to the existing unimproved parking area to the safe east is necessary.
Is required.
Is required. You do that, I think.
Okay, all right.
So is that okay if we just go upstairs and
Yep.
change it and bring it back?
Yep, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to say, Commissioner Christopher, for a little bit of background. Living out in the Houston area, we have another place that's much like this, downtown Houston, and the community council has spent almost 20-something years trying to reduce the speed limit because it's 40 through there and to get a crosswalk put in. That's been nigh impossible.
Maybe if they want a trailhead, they'll actually do it.
But state DOT doesn't have trailheads.
Can I step down as a commissioner, may comment as a landowner?
No,
That's a
during
positive,
citizen
helpful.
comment, you
Well, give me
can.
a citizen comment. I've got helpful.
You can unrecuse yourself and vote if you want. But while you're recused, you should stay out of it. Just trying to save you.
Just trying to help you.
I know.
Have your answers.
I mean, when it all comes down to it, it sounds like whether we do or don't do, or put condition or don't do condition, the college is gonna have the final say so anyway. Kind of sounds. Just some of it.
Yes, only to some of it.
Right.
The parts that actually affect it.
Can I
I guess the other issue that I have is, we know people walk across roads, state highways, all over the damn world. And a lot of times they don't have a crosswalk. By putting a crosswalk there, do you believe that it's actually gonna make anything safer?
It could.
Because on the other side of the crosswalk, you would then have to have sidewalk or something else in order to have a crosswalk. And so are you fully aware of what you're asking the
Yep.
requirement to be?
100%.
May I ask a SEPA question? It's just a general SEPA question,
Sure.
SEPA application question. Maybe I should have did it when Mochi was here. Within the SEPA that's done before any projects that done, isn't there? These applications go out for comment and they get the comment back and all the studies are done within the SEPA in the first place anyhow.
Yes, but on these, the scope of work is inside the boundary of the project and has nothing to do with anything outside the actual land boundary of the
Did you
project.
look at the SEPA?
I asked Mochi about that and they take absolutely nothing into consideration outside the actual property line of the project.
Where is it at? We've got it
And no, we
somewhere.
didn't get to
Thank
look
you,
at the
Jake.
SEPA because I kept asking on this project to look at the SEPA and the state never sent it to me.
In there.
We've been given the SEPA somewhere.
No, we had it on their website for a time and then took it down. And never provided it when I asked.
You need a John Henry there,
Oh, what is this all about?
signature you missed.
Oh,
What?
the typical marijuana stuff. Essentially, we signed saying they are a non-conforming use. And they don't meet our legal requirements. And the state goes, thank you for your letter. Now shut up. Here's their permit. And if they issue the permit and we appeal, they then essentially tell us we have no jurisdiction to appeal the permit. Which is interesting. So, them state agencies.
So where's this crosswalk supposed to go?
Oh, I don't know. That's up to them. Or the safest place to put it at the intersection of their property.
No, where's it supposed to go when it gets to either side? Because you've got your, all
Them
your
to figure out.
ADA standards and everything else whenever you
Then
build a
maybe they should
crosswalk.
worry about someone pushing a wheelchair across the road. We are where we are. I'm trying to mitigate enough to be at a yes. The only other option is to change our county code. Into a way, if possible. With legal advice to allow us to send this to a hearings examiner. To then rule on it. To then give it to ecology. In doing so, we're changing our county code and probably spending $20,000. So I'm trying to mitigate that.
I guess my issue is, we have a recommendation from the planning commission. It seems like there is a need along the river for bathroom facilities
By who? Who asked for it?
from river users.
Oh,
from bath
did
users.
one river user ask for it?
I'm just saying that next
I
to
don't
any
know.
river, wherever somebody's floating, there's a
See,
need for bathroom
Right, but you're
facilities.
arguing a situation that we did not hear evidence of. Not one river user testified that they needed a bathroom, not one resident in county or out of county testified in favor of the project. So anything you're arguing differently
Oh,
is 100% speculation.
Well, you're speculating on whether or not there needs to
that's
be a
just a
crosswalk.
sample. That's-
And you're setting down a gavel on the line on
What do
whether
you
or
think?
not there has to be a crosswalk. When there is an absolute way to figure that out, and that's through an engineering analysis by a professional who's licensed, who has to stand behind that.
Oh, interesting to have Sam.
And us saying there has to be one, it's a requirement, I think, is going
I think
above
it's a
and
good
beyond.
idea,
Where
especially for
you like to say you don't like to set extra
Okay.
conditions
Sure.
on people and their private property rights, but you're making a decision on
Same
what
pri-
has
the
to
same
be.
private property. Okay. Okay. Yep, no, good. You don't get to read it.
Under this one.
No,
I just had to get.
the
you to say it.
consequences of recusing yourself.
I had to make you do it. Sorry.
No, I'll show you what he's not. I'm joking. You just can't speak about it. You can look at it all you want.
I was up there trying to type this and listen to your conversation at the same time.
I
I was
don't
like,
do
"Ugh, I can't do this."
That's quadruple tasking.
What if we can't require it?
Then they do what they do.
Then what? Then you're saying.
I
that-
don't know. What does that have to do with price tea in China?
Well, we are the deciding factor on a conditional shoreline conditional use permit, and we're setting a condition that we don't know if we can set or not. Across the state highway, we're a county. You would think the Department of Transportation would require the applicant to create the crosswalk, not us. It's their highway. I mean, you always talk about liability, so if somebody gets hitting this crosswalk now, are we going to be assuming liability since, we're requiring them to build a crosswalk? You brought that up when we talked about the Lyle thing, when they said, oh, if you want to build a crosswalk, go ahead. We're like, well, we don't want that liability, but now we're going to require it. We're now taking on that liability.
No, we're not. The state would be taking it on because they built it.
Oh, you
Again,
cannot.
that's bad legal advice, so.
Yeah, check them when you go back.
Yeah, I'm fine with this. Do we need to pull it out of the agenda packet already? Or
The sticky's right there. You can sign it right now.
is the original in here somewhere?
Yes.
Oh. Well, no, that is the
That
original.
is,
I
so
just
there's
typed-
not another copy in there somewhere. Okay.
Oh, I didn't think about doing two of them, but I can make another.
No, that's fine. I just wasn't sure if there was the old one in our packet
That he already saw.
that needed to come out.
Yeah, it will need to come out. That's the one that you will sign.
So there is one in here.
Not just now. Yes, I did. But yes, it was. They're sticky. I'm looking at it right now, the sticky on it.
There's nothing in here.
That's good, and she knows where it's at.
Yeah, I don't see anything in here.
There it is.
Okay, let me see that one. As I say, I might already sign that one, so.
I
Well,
think
then it's
we-
already done.
Yeah, well, my signature is void. Okay, I'm better now. I can send this. Signage.
Doesn't need my signature, right?
Nope.
Got it.
Thank you for all your hard work and your patience through this difficult time. Yeah, for 4 items on the agenda, this is a lot of signature. Let's start. I'll just pass half a stack over. Some of them have yours. What did you sign here? The SHS County Agreement on General Terms and Conditions. Department of Social Health Services, you signed that one for some reason. I should scratch in. You did it again. Oh, I'll give you the folder for those in a minute. I was just letting you do some of them while I was doing the other part. So I was kind of hoarding the folder. Do we have any other business before the board? I mean, we've got
I'm
all
just
these
looking through my list.
Zoom people all. God, we might have all the contingent stuff behind us now. This could be interesting going forward.
Just not how it works. It's just the next thing comes.
Do you think there'll be new contentious stuff coming forward? I can't think of any more on our plate.
You do know that the planning commission is currently looking at,
Well, that, yeah, that'll be interesting, but that's not currently on our. That would be future on our plate.
I've got a meeting tomorrow, since I'm guessing we're moving into just discussion, with, he sent emails to us. His name is, oh, where did it go? The gentleman about a new wireless ISP in the area. Shane Milburn. I don't know if anybody got the same, I think we all got the email. But I'm gonna meet with him tomorrow to figure out what Click ISP is or whatever. But it's really interesting. I was looking over these numbers from this is the broadband internet access project that we were getting. And when we think that we're gonna average cost for a household of 4,196, where we're putting in miles and miles of fiber, it's hard to imagine that these people that are not from around here, who's never worked in the area, don't understand that most of this stuff is rock. That we're gonna, design to get to 75% of our households for those prices. I just doesn't pass the sniff test.
That makes me very happy to hear you say that. Because I thought I was the only one.
No,
Your box here, I don't have to sign in on it.
no, I
Oh,
signed
Jake
it.
did that.
I signed
Okay,
it right
Jake did
there.
it.
But it's Chairman's.
No, it's not. It
That's all
says
three of us.
Dan, Jacob,
So you
Lord.
did
Did it?
You just signed over me. See, I signed it. Dan just signed over.
I thought it was
me.
a chairman's signature, so.
The next.
Oh, you signed over and put an X on it? Now
Well, I
you're-
thought it was a chairman's thing and I'm like, what did you sign this for?
Well, I looked a little closer. Thank you for catching that, Lori, since he's trying to eliminate me.
Eliminate you. No, I agree. I kind of look at it that, I don't know. I need more information there. I need more data. I think that's a pipe dream. I think we're building more fiber to nowhere kind of scenario out of it.
And I've also, Chelsea sent me the links to the information on where these towers would be. It's one thing to build fiber to a tower, but we actually have experience building towers in this county and about $2 million per tower. And they want to put in 58 towers. Those are also not the same locations where our towers are, which
And every one of those is potentially gonna have a citizen complain about the look or the view or whatever else.
no.
So there's far more that's gonna need said and done there. which is
High
kinda why
level, but
I wanted to actually see a map and see if we were just going up 3 different creek bottoms somewhere and that was it.
no,
Or
that's,
where
it's
they
all there.
figured they were getting their 7,000 people served.
Oh, and then when I looked at their information, I don't know how old the services is because it has Viasat, but it had nothing for Starlink for services. And I'm well aware that Starlink has a lot of customers here.
Well, and that's the kicker to me too. And you could take the same dollar amount and buy everybody in the county a damn Starlink.
Every one of them,
Every damn one of them and save money.
and save a lot of money.
So no, it's a government subsidy, which means it's,
And I don't know if you heard, but in the debt ceiling talks, a lot of the money that wasn't allocated that was put towards rural broadband is gonna get pulled back. Well, they're just, they allocated a lot of money and that's what all these people are all shooting for, but a lot of that's gonna get pulled back. So just letting everyone know. Not calling it a pipe dream, I'm just
yeah,
saying.
anybody in this county that doesn't have reliable internet that isn't already on the Starlink waiting list, you have your own problems, don't come to me. Government is not in charge of your cable or internet providing.
That was my updates. The only other update is had a good trip to DC. We met with Dan Newhouse and we met with, senators and legislators from both Oregon and Washington, and everything went well. The discussion with the transportation department was probably the most important discussion that we had about where we're going and what changes we need to make in terms of our application for the $200 million that we're applying for. And so we're setting ourselves up in the best position as possible. The issue we have right now is that it looks like Oregon is going to, well, Oregon is falling apart. The Republicans, they can't get anything through the Senate. And so the $20 million, we're hoping, I guess, for a Christmas tree, which means that the session will end, nothing will get passed. The governor will call a special session to set the budget. And all we can do is hope that we can get in on that budget. But everything is.
Why do they, well, the Republicans are holding out, but I thought if they missed so many days, they essentially can't run for reelection.
They've already missed more days. And what I've heard is that they plan to appeal to the Supreme Court of Oregon on constitutional basis, that initiative that was passed was unconstitutional.
I was
So-
just thinking there's like 6 of them that are already over that deadline.
They are, I mean, talk about like standing and dying on your laurels is, but I found out that they make $20,000 a year to serve in the legislature. And it's like, well, it's not about money.
Well,
Mhm.
it's not about paychecks. It might be about money. It's just not about money they get on a paycheck.
When in doubt, keep your mouth shut.
No, I'm fine. People think it, I say it. There's far more ways to make money than on a paycheck.
Well, now that we've considered everyone in the Oregon legislature somehow a grifter or something.
No.
I have nothing else. If you're looking for a motion to adjourn, I'd be happy to make it in this.
Please.
What? Did you? With that, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to adjourn the meeting, noting that we have no workshop scheduled for this week and we're not attending tonight. Nobody's attending tonight, right?
Nope.
Okay, that's it.
And I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. Discussion, I will also mention that we didn't post anything about multiple commissioners potentially going to the Republican dinner thing, which could be a problem. So just, I won't be going, but I will throw that out for my seatmates. That was never posted, so just as a reminder. With that, any
We
further?
never posted about the,
Republican, we always post.
we do?
I have, I've made sure.
Oh,
And I
Okay.
just thought about it just now.
well, then let's, would you accept a friendly amendment to add that 2 or more commissioners may be present at the Lincoln Day dinner?
You want to second the amendment?
I'll second.
Okay. With that, any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, so we will vote on the amendment first, which
Aye.
is the motion that 2 or more commissioners may be present at the Klickitat County Republican Lincoln Day dinner. All those in favor say aye.
I.
Right, motion passes. Now we will vote on the original motion if there's no further discussion, which is a motion to adjourn. Any discussion?
Are you required to make a vote on a friendly amendment?
The amendment comes first unless you redraft the motion, and I can't tell you to redraft. the motion.
But there's a difference between an
It was
amendment and a,
amendment, though.
no, a friendly amendment.
You said amendment. Either way, it's done. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.